On Friday, we finally got a look at the Prime Minister's many financial interests that he kept carefully hidden throughout the election and about which he told numerous falsehoods.
How many kids did he molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows. I'm not a career politician, and we're going to deal with them in a second.
WTF.
Here, here.
But those values are Canadian values.
What?
These are Muslim values. What? These are Canadian values.
He thinks, or maybe you know differently. Apparently,
they say
honestly, that you're the Trump whisperer of the leaders,
I'm not
and
sure
that you're on texting, relations with him, and you're constantly talking.
Happy birthday! A few days short. A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day.
I think that it would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs. So why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
President Trump saying the U.S. is, quote, immediately terminating all discussions on trade with Canada.
Will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
When you stay true to your values and stay focused. And we really have two choices as a jurisdiction, as a country in this circumstance. We can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership. And as the most European of the non-European countries, Canada looks first to the European Union.
These are Muslim values.
Look, I don't think one needs to respond to every comment about another country. Look, we can stand up for ourselves.
These are Muslim values. We good to go?
What?
Stephanie Levitz with the Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. I'm following them well in advance of any of the requirements, as you know, because I know you know this. You know that these requirements come into effect in months. We're talking days after I became Prime Minister. So I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner, going through the processes and all these things that are necessary. And I will remind you, and I'll remind Canadians again, that the Leader of the Opposition cannot find it. And look, you look at the questions this evening, you look at the nature of the discussions, look at the nature of discussions I had with the President of France, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The Leader of the Opposition would not be capable of having those discussions because the Leader of Opposition refuses to get his security clearance, something that it took me a few weeks to get. And he has been the Leader of the Opposition for 3 years. So I comply with my responsibilities, I comply with the rules well in advance, and the Leader of the Opposition doesn't take his responsibilities at a time of, you should take these responsibilities in any time, but it's particularly remarkable given the stakes in global geopolitics at the moment.
Which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
On Friday, we finally got a look at the Prime Minister's many financial interests that he kept carefully hidden throughout the election and about which he told numerous falsehoods during that same campaign. And so these are what the revelations tell us. One, that Mr. Carnage was not upfront or honest with Canadians during the election. He made numerous false statements he would have known were false when he made them. Two, there is a cornucopia of conflicts of interest in these investments, like we have never seen before from a Canadian Prime Minister. Let me go through and document all of these claims one by one. First of all, during the election campaign, Mr. Carnage said, and I quote, "I own nothing but cash and personal real estate, and that's not going to change in public life. Well, it turns out, while he said that, he knowingly owned 574 stocks and deferred profits and stock options in Brookfield and other companies. So it was patently and now provably false for him to say he owned nothing but cash and real estate. 2, my assets are now in a blind trust, so I don't know what exactly is in there. That too is false. He must have known what was in that blind trust because he was the one that filled out the paperwork for the Ethics Commissioner to report those holdings. So he knew exactly what was in his blind trust, and he just did not want Canadians to know before they went to the polls. Finally, he said, and I quote, "I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management." Well, it turns out that he has continuing stock options and deferred share units in Brookfield Asset Management. And these options cannot be sold, or at least not easily, and we have no reason to believe they have been. So when he said that he had no connection to Brookfield, he was stating a patent falsehood.
Coming from a candidate that has never stepped foot in Battle River Crowfoot before these elections, that is very ironic.
Ideas would be something, perhaps a citizens' assembly on electoral reform, something essentially having a third party that is completely separate from the government, not like an appointed lapdog. You know, we have a lot of watchdogs in our system.
Supposedly, according to about 40 people, there's been someone going around saying that they are on behalf of the Libertarian Party or on behalf of me, Michael Harris, and saying that we're looking for signatures to get onto the ballot.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined. That is the finding of the Fraser Institute's July 22nd, 2025 report, and it reports on last year, which shows that the tax burden of Canadians is up 2,784% since 1961, so just over 60 years ago, and that bill is vastly outstripping the bills that you pay for everything else. I'm going to quote directly from my laptop on this report. Taxes have grown much more rapidly than any other single expenditure for average Canadian families. Expenditures on shelter are up 2,100%, food up 927%, clothing up 460%, but the tax bill is up to 2,784%. So an absolutely staggering amount of money that is going to taxes. So the average family is spending 42% now on taxes. That is compared to 35% on food, clothing, and shelter. So you have to ask yourself, are you getting more from the government than you're getting from your private expenditures on food, clothing, and shelter? I have a hard time believing it. There are so many different taxes. We've got income tax, payroll tax, health tax, sales tax, property tax, profit tax, liquor, tobacco, amusement, and other excise taxes, fuel, motor vehicle license fees, and then other taxes. Then you've got natural resource taxes. These are the royalties that are paid when companies extract resources from the ground. And then, of course, there are import duties that you pay when you buy things from abroad. All of those fees, charges, and other levies amounting to a tax bill that is far greater than anything you spend on anything else. In fact, the report goes even further. On page 6, they show the overall tax bill that includes the deficit. Now, the reason they do that is that deficits are taxes. You're taxed two ways through government deficit spending. One is through the deferred bill that you'll get later on, because of course deficits do have to be paid back one way or the other, and that bill does come to you. And the second way that deficits charge you is they increase the money supply, which causes inflation, and that inflation does charge you. It's a tax as well. And they show here that since 1961, that bill has grown dramatically as well, to the point where it is now higher than in any year except for the 2020 COVID year, which is, of course, a very unusual year indeed. But the point is that government's insatiable appetite is causing you a tremendous burden. It's like the private sector is a skinny man and the government is a fat man on his back. And the private sector is carrying that increasingly fat man up an increasingly steep hill. It's time to put him on the diet. It's time to reduce the cost of government. We need to cut bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, and countless other things to bring down the cost of government. We also need a dollar-for-dollar law that will require government to find a dollar of savings for every new dollar of spending, so that there's an imposed discipline, an either-or trade-off required. So you spend more here, you have to spend less there. That's what you do in your household budget, and only then will we be able to reduce this insane bill that is falling on your shoulders and crippling your family's ability to succeed. Low taxes mean that you get rewards for your work, that your investments pay off, that people are incentivized to create more, to grow more food, produce more energy, build more homes, invent new life-changing technologies. All of these things should be rewarded, and we should aim to make ourselves one of the lowest tax nations in the world. That would free up a lot of money for you to do great things for yourself and for your family, and that is what we are fighting for as conservatives: smaller governments with big citizens. Thank you very much.